Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you today from a new little corner in my office, and I'm not totally sure I'm crazy about this stark white background, but the light changes so much, so quickly in the afternoons now, and my usual spot is not the best light. So let me know in the comments, whether you're watching this live or the replay, what you think of the light in the background. I'm always surprised the things that as an entrepreneur I need to figure out, like video and lighting. So if you're here, please say hello in the comments. Let me know where you are viewing from. And for those of you who are new to me, my name is Lisa Rose. I'm the founder of Deeper Love, Better Sex. I am a love, dating, and intimacy coach, and I work with successful single women who are ready to jump out of the dating game because they found their man. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what the hell is a love coach anyway? Because years ago when I enlisted one, I didn't even know that they existed. I didn't know what they were. I didn't really know. What I did know is that I was in a fair amount of pain because the gap between the kind of relationship that I was seeking to have and to be able to sustain and what I kept creating was big. And that's a very painful place because love is something that really matters to all of us. It makes a big difference in life to feel that really yummy experience of being connected and close and supportive. And, I don't think relationship is something that most of us feel neutral about. We either know that we really want it, or for whatever reason, we've made a decision that that's not something we're connected to or invested in. But what was true for me is that I knew that I wanted it. And when a relationship that I had kind of came crashing down, it was a real moment of recognition for me that whatever I was doing was not working. And I am so grateful that I took some action. I tuned in. I allowed my intuition to lead me to a person who was extremely helpful for me. And what happened in that process is that we got to really sort of dissect and pull apart some of the things that just felt so natural to me that I didn't really even know that I was doing them, let alone the impact that they were having. And the main impact that they were having is that they were pushing men that I felt a connection with away. So one of the big realizations for me that I wasn't aware of until I worked with somebody, and this is something that comes up a lot with my clients because I work with a lot of very successful, very driven women. And I would put myself in that camp. And part of what goes with that for me is that I have a lot of clarity about what I want and what I desire and where I'm going and what feels good. And in my business as a solopreneur, I'm kind of in charge of making all of those decisions and making all of those choices. So I wore my I'm in charge hat quite a bit. That is not the best hat to wear with a man because it didn't put me in that receptive, open, I want to say feminine, except that that word is kicked around and used in so many different contexts and ways these days. But what it meant for me was allowing myself to be in my softer side, which was actually a more vulnerable place, to be more in my feelings, to be more in my receptivity. One of the ways in particular that that would come up is instead of like making a request or asking a question like a boss with an edge of demand, I learned how to do it in a way that was more inclusive and more invitational and softer. And it started getting a very different response of the man coming closer to me, feeling less on the defensive, feeling less kind of like, whoa, what was that? And responding to me in a way that actually felt a lot better and that helped us create a win-win rather than him feeling bossed around or manipulated. So that's just one example. I had no idea that that's what was kind of governing some of my behaviors and my choices. And there was something so powerful about having somebody just reflect back to me through a series of questions and exercises and explorations. I never felt judged. I never felt kind of put on the spot. It was a very collaborative experience. And that's really what happens when I work with my clients. I'm not just kind of giving them all of this information. When we work together, I really see it as a laboratory. It's like we get to study together how they're put together and how that is working for her and how it's getting in her way, and then what some tangible things are. Because there's one thing to have a lot of information, but if we don't have access to making the shifts, then that information really isn't going to be that helpful. So I'm just going to kind of run through some of the things that have come up in recent sessions with clients, because they're sort of like the general mixture of why somebody seeks out a love coach in general and me in particular. So of course, the one that I said, wanting to be able to be more receptive so that they can attract a man that is a high quality man of their caliber, who knows how to show up for her and be present for her and feels more like a peer than a project. A lot of the women that I work with, they've got enough projects. They don't need another one in the form of a man. But it requires them opening and softening and being more available to the kind of man who can actually take charge and sometimes lead and sometimes guide. So that's another edge, is getting more comfortable in her vulnerability, in her more soft side, where feelings and desires and the vulnerability of maybe expressing something or asking for something or just being really wide open in a gush of love. As wonderful as that feels, it's also very vulnerable. And if there's been hurt, if there's been neglect, if there's been a lot of conflict in past relationships, it's not necessarily going to feel that natural to just be wide open, right? So I want to stop here because I sometimes forget to say this. If you are listening to the replay, let me just see who's here. Hey there. If you are listening to the replay and you have any questions about what I'm sharing, feel free to ask them or comments, because I will go back and read them. So we've talked about softening, we've talked about vulnerability. Another big thing that comes up is oftentimes my clients can't understand. They feel like they're clear about the kind of man that they desire and the kind of relationship that they want to create, but who they're attracting is a complete mismatch for them. And that's a real point of confusion. And that was a big point of confusion for me. So what we do is we kind of peel that back and we find out, where is the disconnect? Is it a belief? Is it based on what's happened in the past? Is it some fear? Oftentimes our mind gets caught up in wanting something, and sorry about that, you guys. And so that's kind of what creates some of that disconnection. Is it's like a gas brake. There's a part of me that's really clear and is excited. And then there's other part of me that has myself convinced before I even begin that he doesn't exist, or that he won't want me, or that I'm not deserving, right? So as we bring into alignment so that there's a connection between what they really desire and what they believe is possible for them, so much starts to change. I mean, that is really what I like to think of as we get our magic wand working for us. That was a big piece for me too, because as somebody who has had a very clear vision and been able to kind of spell out and embellish what I want and desire, I would find myself very quickly frustrated and impatient with the kind of like, where is he attitude. And one thing that I'm noticing is that's just not showing up, that when I go on dates, I really have come to see that one of the reasons I just feel so relaxed, even when I'm with a man who I'm into or I find hot or I really want to, get to know more, I just feel like I stay in a relaxed place because I am relaxed about the process. And that only comes from being more rooted in trust and faith than doubt and despair. So those are a few of the things. If I didn't happen to name what feels like a current edge for you, you can practice a little bit of vulnerability and self-disclosure. I'd love to hear from you what it is that feels like is a current edge for you, a current bump, a current place where you're experiencing some of that confusion that I described about the disconnect between what you're experiencing and what you'd like to be experiencing. So you can leave that in the comments. And I also just want to let you know that, we are winding up the year. And I know that part of what often goes with that, certainly for me, is there's just like a natural place of evaluation and inquiry and assessment. How did it go? How do I feel about the life I'm living? And in particular, about my love life, about my relationship life, right? If you're really honest with yourself in your heart, you know if you are really living the life that feels joyful and delicious to you. And if that's not happening, what I want to let you know is that there is a way to close that gap. One of the best ways that I know, because it works so well for me and because it works great for my clients, is to enlist some support. And that's where I come in as a love coach. So I've opened up a way to work together that I thought would be a really nice kind of end of year. You can start the year positioned in a way where you are really confident that the things that you were struggling with in 2016, you're not going to be taking with you into 2017. So this is a 30-day 5-session package. And in the very first session, we're going to get really clear about where your biggest barrier is, whether it's an internal shift, a belief, a way you feel about yourself, not feeling deserving, just not knowing how to shift. We're going to find out so that it's not mysterious and you're not like grasping at strings trying to figure it out. And then you're going to have a whole month to unwind that so that you really do close the gap between that longing and that desire that you have, which is a wonderful thing to find fulfillment in, and what you're actually living. So this is the first time I've offered this, and I only have 3 spots in my calendar. So if you could use some support, getting more excited about your love life. And the best way is we can just have a short conversation. We can talk about what that would look like. You can find me at deeperlovebettersex.com. You're welcome to leave me a comment, shoot me a message. But don't talk yourself out of something that you want by deciding that it's not possible for you. And a lot of times just sort of having that first conversation brings a lot into focus. So that's my invitation for you. Any questions, comments to the replay viewers, leave them and I'll get back at ya. Bye for now.